As a web developer, it's very important for you to start with building stuffs. That is, building websites, building mobile apps, or whatever the things you want to build. You shouldn't focus on looking at all the technologies available whenever you are just getting started. But a brief overview of all the technologies out there, at least most of the technologies out there, is going to help you to choose what kind of technologies you can field or what kind of field you would like to go as a web developer or even like as a IT person. Hi guys, my name is Manjunath and welcome to Full Stack Web Developer Guide. In this Full Stack Web Developer Guide, I'll try to cover most of the things which you can explore and take down as a path to get more skill or to get job by learning that particular technology. I don't expect you to learn each and everything in this particular video, but how much ever possible you should try to understand and explore whenever you are just getting started. If you are in college, it's better to give your weekend for whatever the technology is available in this particular guide. Just try to learn what is it and how can you get started by building something using that particular technology. So without delay, let's just get started. First topic in this particular video is operating system that you are going to use as a web developer. We usually have one of the favorite operating system whichever we use in our laptop. For some people it is Windows because they're good at gaming, I know. For some people it's Linux because they are too much geeky about it and they like to explore and get control over their operating system with customization. For some people it is Mac OS because think they are cool and they think Mac OS is like one of the top notch operating system, which of course it is, and everything runs smoothly on it without any bugs. But as a web developer, you shouldn't try to focus on operating system that much, because when you are coding something using web, it should run on pretty much anywhere. Even the Mac OS should display it properly. Even Windows computer should display it properly. So because of that, you have to make sure you are not attached to the operating system that much. I used to use Mac for my development process. Recently, I moved to Windows. The only thing I found difference in Mac OS and Windows is that there was some interface difference, as well as I had to change the workflow, the way I used to code. Other than that, there is not much difference. Or whatever the coding editor I was using in Mac OS, same coding editor I am using in Windows also. And obviously, whatever the cloud technologies I'm using, I'll be using Linux in it, no matter even if I'm using Mac or Windows. But you need to make sure you know at least three of these operating system. Linux is not an operating system. Linux is a kernel, but there are so many distributions available in Linux. You can pick any distribution, probably Linux Mint or Ubuntu or even Fedora, and you can try to explore it, like how does things work in it. Most of the time, when you are working in one organization as a web developer or even software developer, they'll be giving whatever the operating system fits their need. Some of the organization might give Linux, some of the organization might give Windows, and other operating system will give them Mac OS to work on. That's why whenever you are learning it in your laptop, that is other operating system, you need to know at least how to install in major of these three operating system. Without knowing how to install in one particular operating system, you are losing out lots of things. So as early as possible, try to learn how to install things in three major operating system. That is how to install things in Mac OS, Windows, and obviously Linux. Second topic is tools and softwares we use as a web developer. And as always, we need one IDE to write code in. Nowadays, a standard editor which web developer uses is Notepad++. No, I'm just kidding. It's VS Code. or Visual Studio Code. Not Visual Studio, not something else. It's Visual Studio Code or VS Code. It's lightweight editor by Microsoft, which is probably used by many of web developers including me. It's really good editor and it has so many nice feature in it. You can install plugins for whatever the language you are working on. That might be Java, that might be Python or JavaScript, anything. It has one plugin for it, and whatever the workflow needs to be fit your programming language, it also can be installed via plugins. That's why you don't have to worry about whether it's going to support X language or Y language. It's going to support whatever the language which you are using. That's why it's one of the best editor out there at the moment. And another tool which will be used for every kind of development is Git. You need to install Git and Git bash installed in your system if you are using Windows. If you are using Mac, use whatever the shell available in it. If you are using Linux, it also same, that whatever the shell available you have to use. In Windows, it's better to install Git and Git bash together. It already comes together only, I guess. So Git is a technology where we can version control whatever the code which we are writing. Using this version controlling system, you can take snapshot of whatever the code you have worked on, and if something is not working properly, you can always revert back and check what kind of code presented in previous section. So Git is one of the best tools which you need to learn as soon as you are going to get started with web development. And another thing is using terminal or shells. If you are on Linux or Mac, the default shell is really good and you should use that only. As I said earlier, in Windows, the terminal is really good, the Windows terminal which is present in Windows 11. But if you are using older version of Windows, that is command prompt or even PowerShell, it's better if you install Git bash. It's going to give same experience as how it is in Mac and Linux. That's why Git bash is one of the recommended operating system. You don't need to know too much in depth about terminal. You can just learn basics of it. That is how to create folders, how to delete folder, how to remove files, how to create files, how to open up any kind of file in your language, whichever language you are using. These things are going to help you to do the things quickly rather using the graphical user interface available in your computer, because shells make us do the things faster than how we can do it using mouse or trackpad. That's why you need to learn terminal or shell. Next, you need to install Node.js. No matter what kind of tool you are using right now, Node.js is one of the basic tool which you need to have it installed on your system. It's going to help you to do lots of things even if you are not using JavaScript or any Node kind of project, because it's going to allow you to install any kind of software dependency for the front end of the project if you are using some other language other than JavaScript. If you are using JavaScript, you must have Node.js installed. Most of the tutorial I don't show how to install Node.js because it should be primarily installed whenever you are setting up your computer for first time. That's why these tools, whatever I mentioned earlier and now, all these tools are necessary for web development, and without one of these tool, the web development experience will be little bit down. That's why whenever you are learning, it's better to have it all installed. Third section covers what kind of degree you need to have. As a web developer, you need not have any degree. That's what at least the world says at the right now. But I am going to say that it's better if you have any kind of computer science related degree. If you are already having some other degree or already you have quitted the learning in the institutions, then it's absolutely fine. No problem. You can work hard and you can become web developer and get a job in it. But if you are already a student in some college, it's better if you have one degree with you. That is either BCA or computer science engineering. You can also do any other kind of engineering or degree, but if your passion is to learn coding or become web developer, then you can always come home after your classes and you can watch any kind of videos from my channel or any kind of other famous YouTubers channel where they teach how to code, and it's going to help you to become web developer by just by doing that. So easy, right? Imagine becoming doctor by just watching YouTube videos. It's really impossible. But you can become web developer just by watching YouTube videos and learning on your own. So if you want to become full stack developer, it's always recommended or it's beneficial for you if you go to formal education and do the degree, because so many technologies which you might come across in the future, at least little bit basics they will teach in the college. That's why it's always better to go and get experience in the college. You will be meeting lots of like-minded people who are interested in the web development, and you can learn lots of things from them if you are going to college. But if you're not going to college, you are going to miss out on all those things. You can't randomly go to someone and ask, are you web developer, teach me. So it's always better if you go to some college and get web developer degree. Try to finish it as early as possible so that you don't have to delay it further to become web developer. Next topic is ability to handle errors and not giving up in the process. Errors are quite common in web development. Whenever you are working on something, it won't work at the beginning. Even if it works, you should be shocked that how did it work, if something is wrong in it. Because web development works with computers, and computers have lots of bugs associated with it. That's why web development won't work at the first try only. You need to always debug and try to understand how to fix certain things in order to make sure the whatever the application you are creating works fine in the website. And most of the times you will get lots of errors in the web development, and how to fix these errors is the one of the skills which is required as a web developer. Whenever you are getting error, your first task is to go to Google and type exactly whatever the error you got. It's most likely that somebody else also got that error, and at least within first 2-3 links in the Google search engine page result, you'll be able to figure out what went wrong with your code and how to fix it. Even if it is not working properly in there, you can go to Stack Overflow or even Reddit and you can ask the question there, like whatever the error you are getting. You will get answer from there within couple of hours or even 1-2 days if your question is a little bit harder. But as always, it's better if you just try to solve it by yourself by trial and error without trying it out how to solve it. And if you just rely on somebody else for solving it, you are not going to become good web developer, because web development or even software development is all about solving errors. Once you reach certain point, there is not much to learn. It's always about fixing the errors whatever you are getting and learning from them, so that next time whenever you face that particular error, you will be able to fix it without even asking someone else. Solving challenge is one of the important trait of a developer. Solving challenge in terms of getting error or on something which doesn't even exist is one of the skills which you have to learn. What is meant by solving problem? Solving problem doesn't mean you are fixing someone's problem. Solving problem means you are actually building something new so that people won't face the problem, whichever the problem which they are going to get in the future. So daily you should try to build something or other. Whenever you are getting started with web development, try to build from day one only. Maybe calculator application, maybe one basic website, or maybe some kind of blog. You should always try to keep building and solve somebody else's problem, because it's going to give you happiness for creating it, as well as it's going to fix somebody's problem, which is the case. All the software exists to solve some kind of problem. That's why if you keep building new applications or new websites, it's going to help you to get skill of solving problem. Next up on our list is HTML and CSS. HTML and CSS are basic building blocks of web. No matter what kind of developer you are going to become, Node.js, Python, Java, JavaScript, or any other kind of web developer, you are going to use HTML and CSS if you are building for web. Because HTML and CSS is made up of web, that's why you need to learn how to work with them. At least you need to know how to import CSS file into HTML file and how to write basic tags in HTML if you are not too much into front end. I recommend you to at least 2 to 3 weeks to give in HTML and CSS and learn what and all things are available in it. You might or you might not use depending upon what kind of field you will be picking in web development. If you are going to become full stack developer, obviously you have to work with front end. No matter if you are using any other framework, HTML and CSS are going to come, and in the end, whatever the work which you do, it's going to be displayed in HTML and CSS. That's why you need to know HTML and CSS as a web developer. And more than knowing, it should be your first step, because as you progress, learning HTML and CSS is going to become harder because you will know some of the things. That's why you won't go to basics and learn. And if you are not knowing basics, you will never be able to build something using HTML and CSS. That's why it's the problem which lot of experienced developer also faces, that they don't know what kind of tag to use or how to fix a simple CSS problem. That's why whenever you are learning HTML and CSS, forget whatever the experience which you have in that particular field and just try to learn it as a beginner. Next up on our list is learn programming. Obviously, if you are going to become full stack web developer, you need to know how does programming works. I'm not talking about building HTML and CSS website. I'm talking about actual programming language like JavaScript, Python, or Java. So if you don't know how does loops, functions, classes, objects works in one programming language, obviously there is not much to learn in full stack web development. How do you learn programming? Programming can be learned by going to college. Usually in the college they'll teach you C, C++ or Python. Lots of people will say like, why I have to learn it if I want to become web developer? The thing is, having knowledge about how does one programming language works, it's always going to help you to learn web development. Whenever you are using any kind of web technologies, the programming language comes, and in that programming language you need to know how to work with it. It's not like you have to learn exactly that language whenever you are working, but all the programming language will have similar concepts. That's why if you learn C, C++ or any other programming language which they teach in the college, then obviously it's going to help you to learn whatever the language which is recommended while you are building the projects. That's why it's always better to learn one programming language and master it, so that whenever you are facing any kind of other programming language problems, you know how it needs to be handled. If you are not going to college, or if you are already done with college with some other degree, then I would recommend to start with JavaScript, because JavaScript is going to help you to build the projects in different fields or different platform, that is web, mobile, desktop, or even other things can be built using JavaScript. That's why I would highly recommend you to get started with the JavaScript. Next up on our list is what is website and database. As a full stack web developer, you need to obviously know what is website and what is database. Website is nothing but it is collection of web pages, and these web pages can be static, that is just displaying HTML and CSS, or it can be dynamic, which displays some data from database which keeps on changing, and you can add, remove, edit data in this particular website. So obviously you need to know what is website. Website is a building block of web. That's why whatever the things you see by going to any kind of domain, that is www.youtube.com, is a website, and whatever the data stored which keeps on changing in the YouTube, it will be usually stored in one database, and database stores all kind of data which is required for that particular website to function. So if you're going to Facebook, usually Facebook stores all kind of Facebook posts. If you're going to YouTube, it's going to store all kind of video information. So if you are going to some kind of Reddit or something like that, it's going to store all the posts in the database and it's going to display it in the website. That's why you need to know what is website and database. Now next point is front end and back end is also same. In front end, whatever the information that is displayed to the user, it is going to be in the front end, and whatever the back end processing happens with the data, maybe from the front end you are sending payment to your website, and it is going to get processed in the back end and it's going to get stored in the back end. That's why whenever using front end and back end, this is the methodology usually works. In the college, they might say it as client and server, but usually it is front end and back end only. In the front end, website part is present, and in the back end, server as well as database part is present. And back end is usually abstract. The front end people won't know what's going on in the back end. In the front end, any information which is required by the user for functioning of that website, only that much is visible. And in the back end, everything else is visible, and it will have usually authentication system which will protect it from getting access directly without communicating with the front end. So in the website of front end, there should be authentication, and it's going to allow whatever the access available in the backend server, thus giving access to the database. Now let's try to focus more on front end. In the front end, there are three important frameworks which are popular nowadays. That is React, Angular, and Vue.js. React is a front-end framework created by Facebook. All these frameworks have similar feature, that is going to help you to display the data and connect it to backend. And of course, it's going to help you to make the website interactive. That's what front end is for, making website interactive. And next framework is Angular. Angular is initially created by Google, and it's also used by lots of major companies in corporate world. And Vue.js is also one of the community driven framework which doesn't have big companies like Google and Facebook supporting React and Angular. But the Vue community is really good, and many of corporate also use Vue.js for their project. That's why you need to use one of these three frameworks while you are learning to become full stack web developer. And picking any would be fine. My favorite is React. If you want to use some other framework, you can use other also. Next up is backend frameworks. In backend frameworks, there are so many tricky things which you have to figure out. The simple way to learn backend is through learning some kind of programming language. That is, if you want to use Node.js in the backend, Node.js is a backend framework, and in Node.js you have to use JavaScript. If you are using Python as a language, it's better if you go for Django or Flask. If you are using Java, you have to use Spring Boot or some other framework which is available in Java. But either way, if you know one of these three framework, or even PHP for that matter, PHP with Laravel also is one of the option. That's why 4 options are available in the backend. There are so many other options also, but I won't recommend you to explore that unless you know exactly what you are doing. If you are knowing JavaScript, so obviously you can use Node.js. Otherwise, you have to use one of the other framework which is available. Usually, whatever the language you know, you have to pick that kind of framework. That is, if you are using Python as your primary language, you can use Django. If you are using JavaScript, then obviously you can use Node.js. I would recommend you to get started with Node.js or even PHP. Then eventually you can move ahead with other frameworks also. It's also same only. If you know how to work with the one framework, learning another framework becomes easier and easier. That's why you don't have to think too much before learning one of these framework. Just learn one framework and you can get started with any other framework which is recommended by your work easily by learning it for few days or few months. Next up on our list is learning database. Usually recommended way of learning database is in college only because they'll teach you the basics of it, like how to enter the data in it, how to work with database. All these are like taught by college itself. But if you don't have opportunity to go to college, or if you're learning some other course where they don't teach about database, then obviously you can get started with database online only by learning from online courses. Learning database is one of the easiest thing which you can do in this particular entire front end and back end journey, because database is nothing but storing data. That's why there will be only few options available in this. That means you can like add data to it, you can edit data in it, you can delete it, or you can view one data, or you can view all the data available in the database. That's why learning database is easier. It's better if you learn it formally in the college. Otherwise, you are going to face little bit issue if you're learning it online. Some of the database which are recommended nowadays to learn is MySQL and MongoDB. MySQL is structured database where your database structure is rigid and you should already predefine what kind of data you'll be storing in what way. MongoDB is flexible database where you don't have to have any kind of initial structure for it, but it's recommended if you create the structure in your programming language so that you won't get confused, and obviously without relation you will not be able to do much with database. But database exists for storing data. That's why not a problem if you are not using structured database like MySQL and if you use MongoDB also. That's why learning one of these things or even both, if you have opportunity, is going to help you to get good at web development. If you reach till here, then you might be asking, Manjunath, so many technologies are there. Should I learn everything? Should I learn one of these things, or should I learn nothing in it? The thing is, whatever the technologies which I said in previous sections, all these technologies work with each other, meaning it integrates multiple technologies for a website to function. Like if you are building one website, there will be front end parties involved with front end framework, backend parties involved with backend framework, and database is involved with the database like MySQL or MongoDB. And all these are usually connected with the one cloud and servers. All these are integrated technologies. That's why it's a process of learning one by one when you are getting started with the web development. It's not like you need to learn everything, and it's not like you shouldn't learn anything in this. It's a process of learning each and every technology one by one and practicing it, how to work with these technologies. If you want to get focused and if you want to like specialize in one of these technologies, obviously go ahead, do it. You're going to get a good job. But whenever you are in college or whenever you are a student, it's better if you learn all these technologies and integrate them. Integrating all these technologies is one of the toughest thing and one of the most important thing for a website to work. Whenever a business builds one website, they just don't want one website and one database. They want it to work properly with security and all those things. That's why learning, or at least knowing what and all things exist in full stack development, is always going to help you get good at web development. So integrating all these technologies also plays important role, and the job exists for integrating all these technologies also. So obviously not a problem, it's a job opportunity. What else to do when you are building all these websites? Whenever you are building some project using all these things, it's important to create portfolio. Portfolio means whatever you are building, it should be organized and displayed in one website. It can be your website or it can be some kind of resume in Word file, but either way you need to have multiple projects to show it to potential recruiter or a company. If you have portfolio created in the beginning stage only, it's easy for you to get internship as well as job. Without having any kind of portfolio, I don't think any good software company hires their employees. If they ask for your portfolio, then that means at least they are serious about the job. If they don't ask for portfolio and if they are like hiring for no reason, then obviously it should be some kind of bulk recruiting company which has people and doesn't make them do the work, at least not the work which is intended to do. That's why building the portfolio website or portfolio for you by building many projects, even simple projects is also fine when you're just getting started. But building projects and making sure it is visible to the public is one of the important thing you have to do in this particular journey. And once you build your personal website or a project, you need to know how to deploy it to the server and show it to the world. Previously, the only way to show it to the world was just code it and buy hosting service in GoDaddy or some other company and host it. But nowadays, all those things have started to change by DevOps. And easiest way to deploy one website nowadays is to use something called as Netlify, using which you can directly drag and drop whatever the project you worked on, and it's going to give one link which will be visible to anybody in the world, like how any website is visible to the world. And instead of saying somebody that you built this application, just show it to them, that by sending the link, just show it to them saying I have built this website. That would be really better to get any kind of job or to get internship. So how to get job as a web developer if you're just getting started? Getting job as a web developer is probably one of the easy way in this world if you are having good portfolio. Just try to apply directly by going to company's website and emailing saying this is my portfolio, this is my GitHub link, and all this website and all whatever you have built, it should be visible to them publicly, and they'll see it. If you send email to maybe 100 people, 1 or 2 people might see it and they might be interested in whatever the work you have done, and obviously you are going to get in conversation with them, and they might interview to get hired. Or else you can try it in traditional way, where you can go to one by one to the companies by calling them or directly visiting to their HR department in the campus, and you can show whatever the portfolio projects which you have created in full stack web development, as mentioned in this full stack web development guide, and you will be able to get hired if you are good at whatever you are saying you are good at in the portfolio. And another opportunity is to start a business. You don't have to start entirely business by registering and by hiring 1,000 people. You can get started with freelancing also by websites like Fiverr, Upwork, and Freelancer. These websites sounds little bit scammy if you are just getting started, but once you are having little bit experience, you will be able to identify which job is good and which post you can apply in this particular freelancing websites. And once you are familiar with it, and if you charge less for like first project, you'll be able to get started with selling whatever the services you are offering in website and as a web developer. Then all these people are going to hire you and you are going to start earning from online only instead of going to physical job or something like that. Whatever is interest for you, that is going for job, doing freelancing, or starting a business as a web development agency, anything is fine as long as you are going to get started with it and dedicate your time, energy, and work on building skills. So that's it for this particular web development guide, guys. And if you stay till here, then obviously you are serious about learning something and becoming good at it. That's why I'm going to wish you luck to become full stack web developer. Don't be overwhelmed by all these technologies I mentioned. You are going to learn it one by one. I might be explained all this in few minutes, but you are not going to learn all these technologies in few minutes. It's going to take months and months, year maybe, to learn all these things. I took maybe 5 years to learn all these things one by one. You might be learning it in few months or maybe 1 year. You are going to learn all these things. But either way, you don't have to get overwhelmed. Just get started with one thing and start building using it. Then eventually go for another technology and learn it. Then obviously once you learned 4 or 5 technologies, integrate them all and try to release that website to the world. And you can use that particular released website to get job or get hired by some company. Wishing you very good luck in this particular web development journey, and you are going to enjoy in this process a lot. So good luck, and it's a start, not end. Bye bye.